We're talking more detail now about a story we were talking about a little bit earlier on here on Sky News Theatre, where there's a new row over who should be able to play certain roles. Comes after the British singer Maz Murray was reportedly told that she couldn't perform a song from Dreamgirls at the Royal Albert Hall because she's white. Rock star Brian May says the apparent decision shows an unpleasant new kind of race-based injustice. So, is that the case, or is it good that more is being done to make sure people from minority groups tread the boards? Joining me now is Mo Lovatt, Associate Lecturer in Creative and Cultural Industries at Northumbria University, and also Benjamin Butterworth. He's an LGBT and equality activist. Hello to you both. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. Mo, to you, first of all, what do you think about this decision? Let's talk about this one specifically to start with, and we'll broaden out the conversation more generally after that.
Yeah, sure. So I think Brian May is right. He's partly right, but he doesn't go far enough. It is an injustice whenever you are asking an actor to play a character and then saying that they can't based on some kind of essential identity about themselves, rather than their ability to do justice to, in this case of Maz Murray, injustice to the song, then that is an injustice.
Benjamin, actors are supposed to be able to allow viewers to suspend reality and become the role. Is that not fair?
Well, the reality is that minorities are massively underrepresented on stage and in screen. And so when you have a role like this in Dreamgirls being a story to which race is a distinct part of its plot and of its songs, the idea that you would have a white person performing the song is a great issue, because there are so few black people who get leading roles in the West End, in theatre, in stage and screen, that when you have one of the few plays, which is a few musicals, which is about black characters telling the story of African-American women fighting against the patriarchy and racism to get to the top, the idea that then you'd go and give that role to a white woman from a privileged background, I think undermines the story itself. And when you have a lack of people from minority backgrounds, the idea that they don't even get to play the roles designed for their stories shows just how far you have where privileged white people play seemingly every role.
No, minorities should have
so
their own voice.
That would be true. Yeah, no, now that would be true if we were asking Maz Murray to play a part in a movie which, as Benjamin says, is very rooted in the racial divisions of the 1960s America, very much about the Motown story, absolutely 100%. But the idea that a white woman can't stand on a stage and sing a song because it comes from black heritage or a kind of black context is completely wrong. It's that old argument, can a white man sing the blues? And of course, the whole point about music is that it connects people, it unites us in our kind of common humanity. So when you start saying that you should all stick in your lanes and you should only sing, a gay man can only sing a gay song, a white man can only sing a white man's song, then suddenly the whole point of culture, that connecting kind of universal human quality brings us together, is completely lost.
I wonder if we might be able to widen this argument a little bit further, Benjamin, and talk about the Ruby Rose character. And for those who, well, you explain the case as far as Ruby Rose is concerned, better from you than me.
So DC Comics had decided that the role of Batwoman would be played by a Jewish lesbian. They said that's what would be cast because that is what the character had become. Now, Ruby Rose isn't a Jewish lesbian. Ruby Rose identifies as non-binary, and I'm not aware that she's Jewish. And so a lot of people were frustrated that it had gone to a person, to an actress who wasn't of that description. Now, I think the issue there is that how often do you see a Jewish lesbian on our TVs or in our films? You just don't. So when you get a role designed for a Jewish lesbian, I think it's fair enough to say it should go to someone like that. It's a bit like the Jack Whitehall case. You know, it's the first gay character that Disney has ever put in its film, because until recently it had a specific policy banning LGBT characters and themes. So the idea that that goes to a privately educated straight white man, when privately educated straight white men get to do just about everything else, just seems like a massive shame.
No?
So I think the Ruby Rose question is a very interesting one. Ruby Rose is now not, she's disappeared from Twitter because she has been criticised throughout her career for being too gay rather to play certain roles, and now she's been criticised for being not gay enough to play certain roles. The problem here is that we are looking at an actor's personal identity rather than their ability to portray a character, and this misses something, Benjamin's missing something very, very important about the creative act of creative acting. It's acting, it's not documentary, it's not about total reproduction in accuracy, it's about a representation, and it's about an actor playing a certain character, which it's that difference between their ability to portray the actor, which is in the very heart of the creative act itself.
Yeah, Benjamin, I mean, some gay actors play straight actors.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But the flaw to Mo's argument is that that kind of purity would work if we had the perfect society where gay actors get to play the big heterosexual heartthrobs in films all the time. But the fact is that doesn't happen.
Dating back to the 60s, can't you?
Well, you can think of one or two, and that's the problem. But the thing is, you know, if you take, for example, James Bond, can you really imagine them casting an out gay man to go and play James Bond? I don't think they would. And the reason is that it isn't just about the 2 hours where we're watching on the film that we buy into these actors. It's about the whole brand. It's about people buying into them as people and their principles and their values and their celebrity. And a gay man wouldn't become James Bond because I think big business filmmakers would worry that the audience, and women in particular, heterosexual women, wouldn't buy into the idea that they could fancy them and maybe marry them and that they could be macho because they were gay off screen. So when gay actors can't play roles like that, I think it's fair enough to say they should at least be able to play the roles designed for their life stories.
I'm not sure if I agree with that, but we'll come back to you, Benjamin, because I know lots of gay men who are quite macho. Mo, go on.
Well, I think there's something self-defeating about this argument. I mean, there are some problems in the industry. There are underrepresentation. I don't deny that at all. The problem is, so for instance, the first black female director to perform on the West End was only in 2013, and the reason she was prevented from, she believes, from performing on the West End stage for 30 years of her career is because she was only ever considered to direct black productions. She was kind of told to keep in her lane, that she could only kind of represent black culture on the stage. And this is why it's a self-defeating argument, because if you take Benjamin's argument to its logical conclusion, if you think about a trans actor, for instance, how many roles out there are there for trans actors? If you're saying a trans actor can only play a trans role and can't play a heterosexual role, then we're in deep problems here.
Benjamin?
Yeah, no, that's not quite my point. My point isn't that someone from a minority can't play a heterosexual white man in a film, for example. And of course, I absolutely believe, Kay, that there are lots of gay men and gay actors who are far more macho than half of the heterosexual men I know, frankly. But the point is that they don't get those roles so often that if you don't give them the roles designed for minorities, then I think that's where you come unstuck. And that's one of the reasons why minorities are so underrepresented. You know, 30% of film leads last year, according to research, were women. But of course, women are about 51% of the population. In Hollywood, less than 7% of directors are women. So when you've got a situation like that, what we need is to design more roles in the first place that tell stories of these people, and then to let people from minority groups have the chance to play it and to make them lead roles so that they get the platform and then can go on to play all sorts of other roles.
Okay, we're out of time, guys.
There have been gay actors working...
Go on, really quickly, Mo, because we're out of time.
Sorry. I'm just saying it's still a self-defeating argument, because when Queer Eye for the Straight Guy was criticised for not having enough gay actors, the director simply said, I didn't ask somebody's sexuality. I judged them on the way they performed. And that's the way it should be.
You started, so we'll have to let Benjamin finish. Go on, Benjamin.
Look, I think the fact is that we need a more diverse media, and if there's anything we could learn at the moment, it is to think like other people from minority groups, because if there's one problem we have, it's that too many people can't put themselves in other people's shoes. I think that's why society is divided so much at the moment. So having better minority representation on stage and on screen would be better.
You've made my argument for me, Benjamin.
Well, you're just going to have to hold on to that thought, because you started, Benjamin finished. We're always equal on this show. Thank you very much indeed. Still to come on the programme.